creating compelling candidate communications. Next on the Rec Tech Podcast.
Welcome to Rec Tech, the podcast where recruiting and technology intersect. Each month, you'll hear from vendors shaping the recruiting world, along with recruiters who'll tell you how they use technology to hire talent. Now, here's your host, the mad scientist of online recruiting, Chris Russell.
Yes, indeed. This is Rec Tech, the only podcast that helps employers and recruiters connect with more candidates through technology-inspired conversations. Today's show is a recruiter edition. This episode is sponsored in part by HireTool, the recruiter's best friend. HireTool's AI engine is a personal sourcing assistant that works for you 24/7. Check out their new version 3 with a new reporting dashboard, email marketing campaigns so you automate and track email response rates. They've also redesigned the toolbox area to include more AI automation and updated their Boolean string builder. So if you want help with your sourcing, you'd be wise to find them on the web at hiretool.com. That's HIRETUAL.com. And a reminder, the show is syndicated on the HR Podcasters Network. If you head over to hrpodcasters.com, you can find this show and discover over 24 more that cover nearly every topic in HR and recruiting. Again, at hrpodcasters.com. All right, let's do this. Angie Verros is the founder of Vaia Talent. As a former talent acquisition leader at several high-growth organizations in Chicago, she brings a unique combination of successful recruiting leadership coupled with talent brand and operations experience to her role as sourcer, trainer, and consultant to employers. A frequent speaker on the recruiting circuit, you can hear her at the upcoming RecruitCon event in Nashville. But today she is on Rec Tech. Hey, Angie, welcome to the show.
Hi, Chris. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's good to finally have you there. We met at Disrupt HR in New York, I think back in January, right?
Yes, we did.
That was a great show. You spoke there. I'm going to one actually next week, I think, is the next one there in New York. So it's always a good time. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so you're a busy girl these days. You're traveling a lot, speaking a lot. We were just talking before the show started that this is kind of your breakout year, right? You're trying to get your name known, and so you're hitting all the a lot of the major conferences taking place this year, right?
Yes. It was. I said it. I was going to do it for a year and try to kind of get out there and meet some folks and build a nice little brand. And so yes, I've been out a lot, and I am doing it through the end of this year. I have a few conferences that are coming up in the next few months, and then I think I might actually take a break and hang out with my daughter and my husband after that.
Nice. Sounds good. When did you start Vaia Talent? When did you make the move from corporate to consulting?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I officially started Vaia Talent last June. Although I've had the company for a couple of years, I never officially said that this is what I'm going to do by myself 100%. Mm-hmm. So I launched last year at Unleash, actually, formerly known as HR Tech World in San Francisco. And it's been great. I absolutely love it. Working with people, meeting new clients, meeting other industry peers. It's been pretty cool. So it's I'm going to hit my 1-year anniversary in July.
Nice, congratulations.
Or maybe June. Thank you.
June.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, almost. Just tell quickly what you do as a consultant. You do some searching, recruiting. Give us a quick breakdown of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as I'm still trying to kind of figure out where I'm going with this, the majority of the work that I do is sourcing. The business that I'd like to solve is helping, put people where they belong. So trying to make fast and smart hires. So it is sourcing. I do provide sourcing services, some training services and consulting based on tools and technology. Trying to redefine that as I move forward this year and going into 2019. But I'd have to say to solve the business problem of sourcing is probably the number one area that I focus on right now.
Yeah. All right, is it more just name sourcing, or are you actually vetting the prospects as well and kind of shortlisting them?
A little bit of both. It really depends on the need for the client. Sometimes it's full life cycle from the point of, and I apologize, I live in Chicago, so you'll hear a couple sirens come through. I can't mute those. I can't mute them, and my windows are closed.
That's okay. I want to be authentic, so that's good.
There you go. Absolutely. So some clients ask for just, we just want a list of sourced and qualified candidates that you've, done an outreach to. Some clients want them fully vetted. So it really depends. And that's where I'm at the point where I'm trying to figure out which is the best direction for me to take the business. However, it really is going to depend on the client and what their specific needs are. So I am flexible. I really do like working with smaller to mid-sized companies because they're the companies that are at the point where they're not 100% sure if they have the resources that they need or they don't have the bandwidth to do their sourcing. Mm-hmm. So bringing somebody on like myself and my team to help them with some short-term sourcing is definitely the way to go, as opposed to, maybe some larger RPO type, solutions.
Nice. So you're going to speak about creating compelling candidate communications, but before I get to that topic, I wanted to ask you, talk to me about some of your favorite tools or apps that you personally use to source talent. What's on your dashboard these days?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, Chris. I can't say that I have one specific favorite tool. I'm the type of person that likes to try them all and see what works, and if it doesn't, then I move on to the next one. There are a few that I do have on my dashboard that I go to, and I think it's a matter of ease and comfort and being used to some of these. I'm a little old school, so I do use Boolean. And it works. So I'll start off with a very generic Boolean string and then try to narrow it down a little bit. I do have to say that speaking of Boolean, you have tools like HireTool, you have tools like Hiring Solved. SeekOut is another one that I just recently did a demo, just actually yesterday, and I started using a few weeks ago, which I absolutely love, and I'm trying to learn a little bit more about that. And then SourceHub, I'd have to say, by Social Talent. I like using that one specifically because when I do go in and I put in all of my keyword searches, then it'll build the Boolean for me, and then I can go in and I can alter it as well. So those are the ones that I do like as far as sourcing. And then there's another one called Recruitem. Apostrophe EM.
Yeah, I like
Recruitem that I do like. Yeah, I do too. So I'll use all of them, and then if a new one comes up, I'll try that one as well. I think in today's world of sourcing, there are so many that I can't keep up with them. So those are great. But if you know more that I happen to miss mentioning, definitely let me know, and I'll certainly try it.
Yeah, no, Recruitem was one I was going to mention actually, because it's a free tool and it builds the Boolean for you on the fly there and searches a bunch of sites. Is there a tool or technology that you've heard about that you haven't actually tried yet, but you want to try?
Yes. So I have not tried any AI tools, but when I say AI, more so like the scheduling. So I use my calendar schedule. It's called, oh my goodness, it's called youcanbook.me, and I've been using that for a really long time. However, I think that there are, yes, youcanbook.me. And that way I just send that link to my candidates or whoever that I want to make wants to book some time on my calendar, and it automatically links to my calendar. So I've been using that. It's customizable. It's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But I did get an alert from someone the other day with Zoom.ai. And I think that that's more of an AI tool where both parties are using AI to figure out calendar scheduling. So there's really not a person involved in that. It's just the tool that's doing that. Mm-hmm. There was another one, I can't remember the name of it, but there was another one that another friend of mine had sent over as well, which was more, this will look at your calendar, it'll look at my calendar, and it'll do the scheduling for us. So some of those tools and tech is what I really want to get into and learn a little bit more about, but I just haven't had the time to do that yet. So I know everybody's talking about robots and technology these days, but a little bit more of the the AI and the machine learning tools I'd like to learn a little bit more about.
Yeah, these new AI tools and stuff, they need to make it easy for both parties to use it. I think it's so ease of use is going to be a big teller whether or not they're going to rise in the market as far as getting traction, getting adoption. I think so. It's got to be dead simple to use, because I think most recruiters are not that technical. They don't have the time to learn how to use the tool. So if there is a big learning curve, they're going to be in a little bit of a shock, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
All right, so let's go into your message about creating compelling content emails for candidates. So first of all, what's your email response rate like? Give me a sense of how many times people open your emails.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've never actually sat down to get a percentage. I probably should do that though, as far as candidates coming back to me. But I'd have to say that just most recently, and even one of the projects that I'm working on right now, my responses have gotten a lot better because of the persistence. And I think as far as when I say persistence, I'm not sending out messages to candidates, message number 1, week 1, message number 2, week 2, and so forth, with the same exact message. I'm creating compelling content, sending that over to candidates so that they can actually to grasp their attention. So I think that the personalized touch as far as subject lines and then what you're going to put in the message, every candidate is receiving emails from recruiters. And I think if they're getting the same old message, it looks like spam, they're not going to respond to it. So I'd have to say my email response rates have increased so much over the past 6 months in working with working with some of my clients, because I've added that personalized touch to it. Again, I don't have a specific number, but something that I probably should, when I do take a break, sit back and do the math and figure out exactly where my response rates are. But they're pretty good from what I'm getting so far.
What are some of your subject lines? Can you kind of rattle off a few for us? I'm curious.
Yeah. So some of them I include the person's name. There's one subject line, and I'm going to give, I've actually shared a couple of these from some of my friends in our network. Sometimes I will send a message to someone, and it'll say, the subject line will say, your expertise can really help with this, Chris, or whoever the person is. Or looking for some advice, and then I'll put their name. If I do a follow-up, it'll be just a very simple, catchy phrase like, just checking in, Chris, and then people will open that. The one that I like that I've used most recently was more of a sales tactic, was it hit me with a 1, 2, or 3. And the reason I did that was I thought it was catchy. They've got 3 different options. And then the message that went across to the person was, in the past couple of days or couple of weeks or however long the campaign is, I've reached out to you but haven't heard back yet. And there must be one of 3 reasons why you're not responding. And reason number 1 is, you're not interested. Reason number 2 is typically a joke. It's something funny, like you're a superhero, saving the world or whatever. And then number 3 is, you are interested, but, you're jammed up in your inbox. Either way, respond with 1, 2, or 3, and let's set up a time to talk. Or very, very simple. Yeah. And believe it or not, I get really good responses on that. And sometimes I'll just get a response with just that number, 1, 2, or 3. Sometimes I'll get a response that'll say, love your approach. This was great. Although I'm not interested, let's chat. I'm not interested now. Let's chat in 6 months or 3 months or whatever. That one I actually really do like. And you can't send it the first time because, that's after sending a couple of messages. Another message that I do like to use, and please stop me if at any point I'm rambling, but I do like to use another one that says, and of course now I just lost my, we're not all about just jobs. And sending something like that, you're sending it to a candidate and you're sending them interesting content as opposed to just we're looking to hire, a Java developer or whatever the case may be. So, sometimes it's fly by the seat of my pants what kind of comes to mind at that moment. And if I feel like it's catchy and I feel a little edgy, I'll send it to them. And sometimes I don't. But I never send a message that say I'm looking to hire a so-and-so or, hey, let's talk about this new job opportunity. It's usually something that's a little different.
Yeah, I was recruiting for a .NET developer once, and found this guy on LinkedIn, and he had lots of different, Microsoft certifications, right? He must have had 10 or 20 of them. So that stood out to me. So I wrote as my subject line, "All hail the Microsoft certification king," and he responded within an hour. So it is all about being creative and being personal. Is that all there is to it, though, Angie? Is there anything else that you can do to, get these open rates better?
I think following up is also critical. Sometimes people will send a message and they'll just be like, okay, I didn't get a response, so I'm not going to follow up with that person. I'm assuming that they're not interested. I think following up is crucial. As Glenn Cathy would say, it takes 7 messages to get a response. Yeah. And some people may or may not agree with that. But, depending on the role that you're recruiting for as well, when I'm recruiting for sales folks, most of the time they are the most responsive because they're doing the same thing on the other end to a different audience. So I continue, and sometimes they'll come back to me and say, I admire your persistence, because that's what, if you think about it, at the end of the day, we're in just a different type of sales. So I think follow-up and follow-through is also crucial. It's not just let's send a catchy email and hope that they respond. You got to follow up with something. So whether it's you're sending them an email and then sending a message via LinkedIn. I do that many times where I'll send an email initially to their personal email, and then I'll find them on LinkedIn, and then I'll connect with them and say, hey, sent you an email, hoping to connect soon, or find them on Twitter. I was surprised. I always heard people talking about recruiting on Twitter and how they got really great responses.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, no way. I never, a couple years back, I never thought that would work. And I did it. Yeah. And, you never know until you try. And I just started sending direct messages to some people or tweeting to them just something about, hey, I love your background, or great picture, or whatever. And people actually, come back to that. Because if you hit them up on Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook, and some people feel sketchy about that stuff, after you've sent an email, they'll see your name a couple times, and they'll be like, wait a second, I got an email from this person. Maybe I need to respond. So it's that follow-up. And then people don't use the phone. It's so simple. Stacey Zapar gave me a trick, True People Search. I mean, a lot of people know about it, but we were sitting together one day, and she goes, have you heard of True People Search? Check it out. And she did it for me, and you could find anybody's phone number. So why not pick up the phone and call that person or shoot over a text message?
Is that a website?
So I think it's the follow. Yes, True People Search. It's free. I think it's called True People Search.
Let me Google
True People Search. Go in there and put your information in there. It's kind of creepy. True People Search knew where I lived when I was like in the third grade.
Interesting.
Isn't that great? And it's free.
Yeah.
It's a free tool. So if you're, absolutely, you'll try it and tell me what you thought. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, and I'll just echo your stuff on Twitter. I mean, I think Twitter is an unutilized sourcing tool. I just wrote a whole ebook on this, actually. Twitter recruiting, because it's great for branding your company. It's great for also sourcing, though. I mean, there's every kind of person is on Twitter, and it's actually seen a resurgence in the last couple of years. It's growing again, 10 to 15% a quarter. I mean, and there's I think over 300 million people on it now. So it's a big site if you know how to search it, and it's not rocket science either. It just takes common sense to use it to source on. So. Good stuff there.
Yeah, absolutely. And even like finding, I'm sorry, we're going to continue this Twitter talk, but just to even find a hashtag and the people who are following that specific hashtag. And then there's also, I believe it's called follower wonk,
yeah.
Where you can go in. Yeah. And then there's another Twitter tool. I mean, I have a lot of these written down. There's too much and I can't keep up with that, but you can actually go in and specify a time frame, certain followers. I mean, all this information, and it really, really is amazing that if you take the time to do the research and find out something about your candidate, it's so much easier than to go and message them. I think sometimes as recruiters we forget what it's like to be on the other side. So I know we're sending out an email or a message or whatever the case may be. There also is a human on the other side, and they're funny and they like hearing jokes. And so I think it's important to take it back to basics. Use the tools and technology to find the people and get the contact details and all that stuff, and then make it about them.
Yep.
You want to make the message about the candidate. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think people on Twitter are more open to being contacted because it's much more of a kind of a casual network, I think, right, versus a LinkedIn.
Yep.
You definitely have some room there. Angie, I want to ask you about how are you tracking all of your sourcing activity and candidates, and how are you all the follow-up stuff? How do you track all that stuff? You just put it in a spreadsheet, or do you do it through your your Outlook? Or tell me more about how you kind of track and keep all this organized.
Yeah, so I think that's the constant struggle in recruiting, is how to keep everything in one place and keep everything organized. I tend to be a little old school sometimes, and I still keep some, I've moved from Excel to Google, so I do use some Google Sheets to keep track of some stuff. Obviously with high volume, that's very difficult to keep track of that. Depending on the client that I'm working with, it's working within their ATS or CRM. So I've had experience working in a number of different types of databases, and I try to keep everything in one specific location just so that it's easier to manage. But sometimes that's not the case. I'm a big fan of Workable. Workable is a great ATS, and I'm in the process of looking at that as a solution for Vaia Talent. To keep track of everything that I'm doing internally over here. But right now, it's just a little bit of all over the place. I'm fortunate that I have not had to do a lot of high-volume recruitment most recently, so it hasn't been that difficult to keep track of for me right now. But that's a struggle that I'm facing, is trying to figure out what are the best tools and technology that I can be using in order to keep everything in one place. And then I also do like, since we're talking about tools, I also do like Clinch. Clinch is one of my favorite, the recruitment marketing platform, where I'm able to create job landing pages for clients, have the candidates go directly there and apply, and then there's an automated workflow behind that as well. So as I kind of figure out what's next for Vaia, I'm also looking at the best technology stack that I'm going to be using internally. And Clinch and Workable are two of my favorites that I have been using right now. And then, I think I'm always going to keep a little bit of the basic with the Google, just for, I don't know, just because it makes me feel, happy. I don't know.
Grounded. No, I totally get that. Let me take a quick break here so I can tell you about our other sponsor, listeners, RoboRecruiter, and their recruiting chatbot technology. RoboRecruiter's job vet campaigns help recruiters vet and select candidates for particular roles. They make it easy to quickly build conversations that are both personalized to each user, such as asking them pre-screening questions like before they apply. You can start prioritizing top candidates within minutes with RoboRecruiter. Check them out at roborecruiter.ai. Shout out to Angela over there. All right, Angela. I'm sorry, Angie. Tell me a tip. Tell me a tip somebody gave you recently about recruiting or hiring that you remember that you'd be willing to pass on to my listeners. What comes to mind?
Ooh, that's a good one. That is a really good one. But before I answer that, I do want to say RoboRecruiter is one technology that I do want to try. And I did reach out to Angelo when he posted something about the tool, and
cool.
I have yet to log in, but I'm going to be trying that. So, Angelo, if you're listening, I am going to be trying that tool, and I'm definitely interested in learning a little bit more about that. So, yes, thank you for that.
Nice.
A tip someone gave me recently about recruiting that I want to pass on to listeners. I don't have, again, one specific tip. I'd have to say that being in this business, we're all about putting butts in seats. And sometimes we just get hung up on, I just need to find more candidates. My hiring managers need more candidates. Taking a step back and really looking at that person's background and profile to send that personalized message. I think that that's probably the most important thing. And it's a tip that I've heard at many conferences that I've attended, so nothing specific. I do always have to shout out Glenn Caffey. I think that, listening to him speak, he was one of the first that I heard speak. And I think that, that human piece is something that sometimes we forget about. What it's like to be on the other side. And I think that that's probably the best tip I can give to people who are new to the business or people that are wanting to get into the business, that it really, although sometimes, it may take a little bit longer, it'll allow you to work smarter. So I'm a firm believer in working smarter as opposed to working harder, because it just makes more sense.
Yep.
So sending out less messages and getting more responses with a personalized approach, I think, is a lot better than spamming a bunch of people and not getting that. And then also, step outside of your comfort zone. Most recently for myself, I've gotten very comfortable with feeling uncomfortable in the state of where I'm currently at with my business. And I think that, sending a joke or making a funny reference, or even sending a meme or a GIF or GIF or however you call it to a candidate is setting you apart from the rest of the people that are doing the same exact thing on a daily basis. I guess that would probably have to be a little conglomerate of tips if I were to give to to the listeners today.
No, that's good. I think empathy and being human is important. People still hire people, right? So I think you're spot on there. Just a couple more questions for you. Give me your best sourcing story from your recruiter days. Could be recently, or it could be 5 years ago, that you're most proud of, as far as really digging down deep into the web and finding somebody that you eventually placed. What comes to mind?
I don't know if this would be more of a sourcing story of digging deep or more of an engagement, but I'm going to say it anyway because I really do like this.
Okay.
I think as sourcers and recruiters, again, our primary responsibility is to be reactive and fill the positions that we currently have on our plate and then move on to the next one. And we don't take the time to think into what's ahead for 3 or 6 or even 12 months down the road. So one candidate that comes to mind was a gentleman that I had found, I don't know, through maybe a Boolean search. Yeah, it's nothing crazy, maybe an X-ray search, and reached out to him, but then the needs for the organization that I was working for at the time had changed. So I kept in touch with him, and it was just every 3 weeks or so I would send a message just to say, hey, we're still interested in your background. However, we've had some adjustments in our workforce plan for the year, and we're not sure where we're going. And then I'd get a message from him once in a while as well saying, I'm at a good place right now, so I'm not rushing to leave, but would love to stay in touch. And we went to lunch a couple times, and we kept in touch, and it was just a text here or there. And the company that I worked for at the time hired him 9 months later. So I guess it's not really a, quote unquote sourcing story. It started off as, finding this gentleman and then keeping in touch. I think most people would probably have given up if the hiring team had said, keep him warm and we'll see what happens. And that's always the case that happened. Was every month it was, keep him warm, tell him that we're not sure yet, keep him warm. And I did just that. I kept him warm for 9 months. And then we hired him 9 months later, and he ended up being a stellar employee. He's a friend of mine today too. So I'd have to say that was probably one that I was most proud of, because I think most people would probably stop and say, okay, you're no longer being considered for this role. Let's move on to the next. Whereas this wasn't the case.
It's a sign of a good recruiter. Persistence pays, and you kept them in your network, kept them warm, like you said, and eventually it worked out. So good stuff.
Yeah,
I think that's a good lesson. It's a good lesson for people.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, Angie, where else can we find you this year? Where are you going to be speaking at? What conferences are you going to? Give us the rundown.
Yeah, that's a good one. I wish I had them listed in front of me. No, I am going to. So I will be speaking in Nashville next week. I'm really excited about that one. I will be attending Unleashed the week after. I'm not speaking there, but I am going to go as an attendee, which will be kind of nice to take a step back. I will be in London, so I will be speaking at RecFest in London, as well as Sourcing Summit in the UK in June. I'm actually starting my own little thing, which I'm going to publish next week, where I'm going to host a Disrupt HR in Athens, Greece.
Nice.
I am Greek, and I do visit Greece pretty often. So I started that. Workable is going to be sponsoring that in Greece in June, so I'm looking forward to that. And then the fall is just kind of crazy. I will be going to SourceCon in Budapest as well. Ooh. And then I've got a couple of things lined up for the fall. Clear Company in Denver. I'll be speaking at that event. And I'll be I'll be speaking at ERE, and I will also be the MC for the Candidate Experience Awards in the fall as well.
Wow, a lot of stuff. Well, Angie, we appreciate the time today. Appreciate the tips. I think you gave us some new tools as well we haven't heard about in the show. True People Search. That was cool. Tell the listeners how to connect with you online. Where do they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is Angie Verros. Very simple, nice, short Greek name. On Facebook, however, you can find me at Angie Verros Angelopoulos. If you haven't guessed by the name, I'm Greek. I married a Greek man. So my legal name is Angela Angelopoulos, thus why I did not remove Verros in the middle.
So I was right when I called you Angela.
Yes. Well, that's why I laughed. Yes, legally it's Angela Angelopoulos.
Okay.
On Twitter, I'm still at Angie Verros. And then my email address is Angie@Vaia, VAIA.io. I'm a big, big fan of networking and relationships. We're in the people business, so we might as well connect with each other. So feel free to connect. I'd be happy to, and I love to learn from others. I mean, there's so much out there, and would love to, continue these discussions.
Awesome. Well, thank you for teaching us today, Angela, and Hope your rest of your trips go well. That's going to do it for this edition of the RecTech Podcast. We'll link to Angie's links in the show notes. Thanks again to our sponsors, HireTool and RoboRecruiter. Don't forget you can subscribe to the show via iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and of course Stitcher Radio. Angie, I hope you're subscribed to one of those channels.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening, and remember, always be recruiting.
Another episode of RecTech is in the books. Follow Chris on Twitter at Chris Russell or visit rectechmedia.com, where you can find the audio and links for this show on our blog. RecTech Media helps both HR tech firms and employers to get more clients or candidates through our consulting practice and online tools. So be sure to check out our sites like recruiting headlines, job fairing, and more to stay up to date on what's happening in recruiting. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon on the next episode of RecTech, the Recruiting Technology Podcast.